Welcome into the DNVR Broncos podcast on this fabulous Friday. And right before the show, 15 seconds before, Henry said, wait, what are we talking about again? And I said, I don't know. Just kidding. We know what we're talking about. Barely. Broncos did practice today, Henry, and I think we're kind of in that loop. I think we're in the loop. Of just, we don't know what day it is really. I think it's a Friday. We don't know like what's going on tomorrow, what happened yesterday. We don't know the differences between anything because that's what training camp is about. And now, Henry, you've been in this for 10 days now because the Broncos had their 9th practice, but there was a day before that, which is when training camp kind of unofficially starts. How are you doing?
It's good. Like, I'm good. I will say that there's like
there we go.
Other outside forces. So, for example, my girlfriend's really excited that Sunday we don't have much to do. And she was like, oh, yeah, we can go. Like, and it's like, we're not going outside. Number one, we will not be in the sun. Number two,
sun.
I need a nap.
Okay.
Like, so I'm down for whatever else. There's a nap in the middle. I'm not staying up too late. I'm not waking up too early, and we're not going outside.
So in one way, you're kind of building this like you're being flexible, but in another way, you're saying, we're not going outside, and I'm taking a nap. So that pretty much leaves like card games, board games, and movies to be watched.
I don't really like
football.
games.
A lot of movies on Sunday.
I think we're going to go see that Nope.
Is that a movie?
Yeah, Jordan Peele.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
like
you're going to get a little scared.
There's the movie theater has recliners.
Oh, so you're taking your nap in the movie theater.
I'm going to try my best not to.
Yeah, don't do that.
I know.
That's what it turns into, a great nap.
Yeah, it does.
I remember you'd always go to
expensive nap.
Yes, a very expensive nap, but kind of soothing too.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not there yet. Not nap time yet. The Broncos practice today, and like you said, Henry, not really. The Broncos, as we know, Nathaniel Hackett likes to do 2 days on, 1 day off in, and here's the key. Here's the asterisk that I think some media members didn't realize until Hackett explained after practice. It's not necessarily 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off.
Yep.
It's in a 3-day period. You got to have 1 day off. And not truly off, but as a jog through. So yesterday started this 3-day period. They went heavy. Today, they went light. Tomorrow, they're going to go heavy. And the reason for that is then Sunday is a day off. And Hackett wants his players taking a big old nap on Sunday, coming off a big practice on Saturday, not just a light little jog through.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, all of the things that he says, you're like, yeah, that is responsible. You don't want injuries. But when you're standing there on the sideline, it's so disappointing to not see anybody playing real football. Like, that's, you got it. We've been 6 months without football, you know, and 7 months without Broncos football. Not to bring up how the last season went. But, yeah, I mean, you want to see football while you're out there. Yeah, it's nice to know ahead of time, I guess, what you're going to get. But it still is a little bit disappointing because we just want to see Cortland Sutton versus Pat Surtain. And we want to see these outside linebackers try to work against Calvin Anderson and Garrett Bowles and just see what's happening. So it is a little bit disappointing not having that, but just be blessed for what we do have. You know,
Exactly.
This is not June.
It is not June. And Henry, we're 8 days away from the first preseason game, which is crazy. Okay, wait. Did you watch the Hall of Fame game actually last night?
It was incredible.
Oh,
it was incredible.
The only thing, I don't even know who won. I don't even know if the over hit. All I know is that there was a weather delay.
Yeah, which is actually it was disappointing when it happened. My plan was, okay, get home. I'm going to have about an hour or so to write and get as far as I can. I'm going to watch the first quarter. I'm going to kind of slowly work afterward. But no, 40 minutes of delay means I was able to just get all the writing done. Didn't miss a snap. Totally tuned in. It was so much fun. Like, they had Josh Jacobs out there for no good reason.
Yeah, what was that?
They're just asking for something bad to happen.
Yes.
But, like, if you're trying to build confidence, you did an incredible job. Like, they just hand him the ball. They throw these little screen passes, whatever. He's just breaking every tackle. And it's so
Going
much
up against
fun
third
to watch.
stringers.
Exactly. Like, guys who are not going to be on the team. Makes you think, like, why not just give Javonte a little bit of run?
Yeah, I love it. I hated it. No, don't do that.
There was a point when I was watching where I was thinking, like, okay, you're asking for an injury. At the same time, none of these guys are strong enough to injure Josh Jacobs.
Oh, well, that's true. Unless they want to be the ones to say, I injured Josh Jacobs in
That
2
is
months
true.
when they're an insurance agent.
That is true. Mm-hmm. I don't think they could do it. They're just all on their back as soon as they touch him.
So who won?
Oh, the Raiders beat the hell out of him.
The
That's the
Raiders
other
beat
thing I was talking about on bets. You go into a game like that saying, like, not only is this a preseason game, this is the least impactful of any preseason game. So you go into it saying, like, it doesn't really matter. But then you watch and you're just like, no, actually the Jaguars still suck. They really do suck.
But no Trevor Lawrence, right?
No Trevor
Okay,
Lawrence.
smart. At
No
least they're
CJ
smart.
Beathard either.
Okay.
Beat hard.
So it was, who were the quarterbacks?
Kyle Sloter was out there for a minute.
Slaughter City.
Did
He throw a touchdown.
He did. I think he threw a
Wow.
late one.
So did the over hit?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
And it's one of those where, like, there's a return for a touchdown, and he hits like the red zone, and the flag thing comes up, and you're like, oh no, oh no. I think twice there were penalties that either there was one that knocked him from the 20 out of field goal range. There was another one that just straight up knocked him out of field goal range. There was a bunch of things that were happening during that game where you're like, this is not going to be an over game. But with like 3 minutes left, they were able to make it happen.
Man, that was pretty tight, though.
It was.
Pretty tight. And speaking of not being tight at all, we are totally off the rails right now. But
That's fine.
I don't even know if I welcomed you to
Friday.
the show. Exactly. It's Friday, fun day here at DNVR Broncos. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Zach Stevens, joined by my guy, Henry Chisholm. And Henry, there were maybe one or two things. Well, first, got to tell you about our presenting sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook, where you can get $1,000 in a risk-free bet by signing up for DraftKings Sportsbook. There you go. You get in, bet $1,000, and if you don't hit it or anything under that, you get a risk-free bet to get your money back. So check them out over at DraftKings Sportsbook and use that code DNVR. Henry, there may have been one or two things that we were able to learn from today's practice. Let's hit those really quick before we jump into talking about where position battles stand 10 days into camp.
Yeah, I mean,
What'd you take away from today?
Damari Mathis. Damari Mathis.
Number 27.
I think he might be a guy. He might be a guy. Again, you don't know exactly how these pieces fit together, but I do think that when you run through like who's on the table to play at cornerback, you got Surtain.
Yep.
You got Darby.
Yep.
K1 Williams is going to be the guy, but you don't really know what's exactly up there. Asang Bassi is probably the replacement there. Is Damari Mathis in front of Michael Ojemudia?
No.
Okay.
Close.
Okay.
But I do think Damari Mathis is the guy in terms of, I think we know the 5 cornerbacks for the Broncos. It's obviously the 3 you mentioned, the 3 starters. I think Damari Mathis is going to take that slot role from Asang Bassi. He was playing a little inside today. Now, also, we saw Pat Surtain playing inside, so it doesn't necessarily mean that Damari has taken over Asang as the true nickel. So we saw a lot of versatility there. But I think the way that Asang Bassi has played and his body is just a little smaller, and he hasn't played for a year. And when he did play in, 2020, he was good, but hasn't played for so long. And the way Damari Mathis is trending up, I think they're going to give him a shot to be the backup nickel cornerback, and there's no better time than right now when K1 Williams is on the bench.
And we saw some with Mathis on the outside with Surtain in the slot.
Yeah.
So you do wonder because, I came into this saying Damari Mathis, he's your slot guy. Like he's not your slot guy. You're hoping eventually he is your slot guy.
Yeah.
I think he might be an outside corner. And again, now if you're on the field because K1's not on the field, does that mean you slide into the slot? Potentially. But I think that, it's the same thing with like Baron Browning, where Baron Browning, he can play outside linebacker. Or he can play inside linebacker. What is he though? He himself is an outside linebacker. It's just that he can do that as well. So Damari Mathis, I think he is an outside corner, although the path to the field might be through the slot.
And I completely agree, because then I look at Ojemudia and I look at Damari Mathis and I say, who's a better slot corner if needed? And I think it's probably Mathis, and then you keep OJ on the outside. And maybe Asang Bassi, maybe they do go 6 cornerbacks and Asang makes it because he's more of that true nickel. But Hackett also had very good things to say about Damari Mathis after practicing, how he's still transitioning and doing a good job, and we're clearly seeing that he had an he was smothering defenders on Tuesday, had an incredible diving PBU on Tuesday as well, and then yesterday he has the diving interception, and now we start to see him get some reps with the first team. So I completely agree. I think that is a big takeaway there, and the other big takeaway for me today was Quinn Meinerz. We got to talk to him after practice. There was some rotation with him and Nathaniel Muti, so the coaches are saying this thing's not over yet, although this week, Henry, it's very clear that Quinn Meinerz is in the lead because he has got a lot more reps than Nathaniel, but we're going to dive into that in just a second. But Quinn, he's lost 10 pounds. He was playing around 330 last year, which is a big boy.
'Cause he's not that tall either.
No, he's really not. I mean, the belly is a pretty fitting nickname.
Totally. Yeah, seriously. It's not like he's short. Maybe for his position a little bit, but that 330 is a big number for somebody like him.
Sometimes you see offensive linemen and you're like, they don't look like an offensive lineman at all. Like they don't look big. They look like a big human, but not like a massive offensive lineman. Quinn looks like a massive offensive lineman. And so he's still big. Playing at 320, 315, he said that's his sweet spot. Typically, in this scheme, you really don't see guys over 310.
Yeah.
It's like 305, 300. You may even see like 295. Quinn is still very big. And I like that because if Quinn were to have tried to adapt to the system by dropping 30 pounds, he would not have been himself this year. And maybe this year he plays at 320, keeps a starting job, and just realizes, I just need that much more speed, then drops to 310. I'm okay doing it over a couple of years, but it would have been too much for him, and it would have been way too big of an ask for the coaches to say, okay, you need to drop 30 pounds.
Totally. And this kind of reminds me of, I think it was yesterday. No, maybe it's 2 days ago.
See, it's all rolling together.
No, they're all the same. Well, they're not all the same. There are some pretty bad practices. But 2 days ago, I think it was, I saw Mike Purcell standing next to KJ Hamler. There was, height-wise, got to make that very clear, not much of a difference. Like there's
in their height, right.
3 inches maybe, but still, like you think of Mike Purcell, big old guy.
Yep.
He's stout.
Yeah,
that's another guy who's just stout. He's not tall.
He is very stout.
A little off topic, but
no, I mean, and then for comparison, you see Draymond Jones, and you don't think small guy, but he is just, I mean, he's all muscle. Yeah. I mean, there's no fat there, and that's kind of the comparison of some offensive linemen. But Quinn has the belly there, and his biggest thing is just going to be, in my opinion, how fast can he run? And so he said that dropping those pounds allows him to get off the ball quick. He said when he's going to the second level, he thinks he can get to a linebacker 9 out of 10 times. And he said the one time he doesn't get to a linebacker, he's just going to be able to yank him and drag him. So, I mean, he's very confident in it. And I think the coaches are also confident. And also, another layer to this is George Paton. Because George Paton was the guy that drafted him. So there is some reason for George to also push for Quinn because the guy he's competing with, and I guess we'll just jump right into position battles right now and start with this one. The guy he's competing with is Nathaniel Muti. He wasn't picked by this coaching staff. He was not picked by George Paton, but they're giving him a fair run at this. Yeah,
they definitely are. They're a more than fair run. And that is probably something that stands out. I don't think there's too much of a push to put Glasgow in just because he's from this regime. There might be like a tiebreaker or something, but I don't think it's a real push. I think that it's important to remember that these guys are the same age. So in my head, Moody's been around a lot longer when really it's just a season longer.
It does feel a lot longer.
He is more of a developmental guy, both developmental guys, but more so Muti. And I think that Glasgow still is just a little bit more polished. And that's what is giving him this edge and why I think he's going to win this job. I also think that...
Wait, Glasgow's going to win which job?
Oh, no, sorry, not Glasgow.
Reisner. Right. Yeah. No,
Miners,
not
Miners. There we go, Miners. I know. I'm so used to so many guys in there. But I do think that Moody's still just one more year away from really being there. And maybe not even a year. Maybe it's a month. Maybe it's 2 months.
Interesting.
But I do think that Meinerz is still boxing him out of this position. And the path for Muti long term might be just moving on from Reisner after this year if Muti is in position to take that job.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, and I think that's where things stand right now. Now, you talked about one other guy, Glasgow. He is not seemingly in this competition at all. And I'm even now finding it difficult to see where he fits in on this team because he hasn't taken a first-team snap at center. He hasn't taken a first-team snap at guard. So I guess his role on this team is backup center. And he has been taking some snaps there with the backups. But he has to compete. I know the Broncos won't save anything moving on from him, but do the Broncos want to go with a guy just so that they don't have $3 million in dead cap, or do they want to go with a younger guy who they drafted this year at center? So I really don't think that man, there are so many names. That Graham Glasgow is in this competition at guard. Yep. I think it's these three. I think all three of them make the roster. And right now, there's an odd man out who's still trying to poke his way in, and that is Netane Muti, but he's not able to fully get that job yet. And we've seen it kind of solidify a little bit this week where he's poking and getting a couple reps at left guard, then he's getting some reps at right guard. But for the majority, it's Dalton at left guard and oh my gosh, so many names. Meinerz at right guard.
Totally. And I think the thing that's really hurting Glasgow more than anything, so many names.
So many names, so many G's.
Exactly. It's just that you already kind of have Muti. You already have a backup interior lineman. And so if you were to get into a situation where obviously if touch wood, you lose Reisner, you lose Meinerz, it's Muti. It's Muti who subs right there, and then you're off and running. The question right now is what happens if it's Cushenberry? And you have a couple of options. One option is you bump Meinerz inside and you play Muti at guard. And I think that might be the most likely option. The other option, though, is you actually put in a backup center, and that's where it's almost definitely Glasgow, I think. I don't think that we've seen enough from Luke Wattenberg to say that he's getting those reps ahead of Glasgow. Like, he's probably not. And to be honest, like yesterday when they were warming up, they do this drill. Basically, it's the three centers. They snap to the three quarterbacks. The two starting running backs are taking handoffs or pitches or whatever it is. And then the third quarterback is actually giving it to Nathaniel Hackett. We don't need to go down that road.
See your third string quarterback?
I guess so. But what the two centers getting the work, Lloyd Cushenberry, you've got Graham Glasgow, and then the third, they actually had Casey Tucker in there giving the snaps.
That's diving deep.
With Wattenberg just like standing there. And it's like they actually weren't rotating, which was weird. Because I was standing there watching, like, okay, they're going to rotate,
Right.
And I think for the most part has been Wattenberg doing that drill. But that's just to say that Wattenberg definitely doesn't have like the backup center job locked up. It could be Casey Tucker, and it's probably Graham Glasgow in front of either of them. So in terms of making the roster, that's the big decision. This has been a lot of me talking.
No,
the big decision is it Meinerz who moves in and Muti who goes to guard, or is it Glasgow who goes to center? And that's the first decision that's made. The second decision is, well, if you run out of, the Muti's already out there, then what do you do? Is it worth keeping Graham Glasgow just to be that second interior lineman to come in?
It's going to be Russell Wilson's call. They should ask him and say, what do you want? Do you want the vet, or are you comfortable with going with the young guy that has some potential to eventually become your center? And that's all going to be up to Russ. I have to imagine if I was Russ, I would say, yeah, I want the experienced veteran to help me out. I don't want to be looking bad. I don't want to have to be doing double the work when I'm at the offensive line making checks. So that's a great observation, Henry. And so that's kind of where things stand inside. And I got to say, man, Muti next to Meinerz on the offensive line, that's a ton of power right there. I would love it. Now, they're not running a power scheme, so these guys got to be able to run and everything. But man, that's exciting to think about.
And it still comes up, like Meinerz's ability to pull and go hit somebody. Like they're still running counters,
right?
Like, and at some point they probably run a power runner two here or there.
Got to think.
I guess the final piece, Wattenberg is going to be 25 before Muti or Meinerz turns 24.
Because he was in college for 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like you probably slip him through the practice squad. Yeah. It's whatever. But
and something that we're probably going to talk about and mention a couple of times in the next few weeks is guys, every team has 1 to 3 players that you say, is he going to be able to slip through the practice squad?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Pretty much all the time you're able to get your guys through to the practice squad. So even though he was a draft pick, he's probably still going to be able to slip through. And that's honestly probably the route that they're going to go, especially with Graham getting those backup snaps. Okay, let's hit one more on the offensive line. Where does it stand at right tackle right now? Because we've seen one person get all of the snaps at right tackle. That's Calvin Anderson, yet it still feels like it's a wide open job.
I think there's a 20% chance it's Calvin Anderson's, which is a crazy number considering he's taking every snap. Yeah. But it's Billy Turner to me. Like I think it has to be Billy Turner. And if it's not Billy Turner, I think there's a good chance Billy Turner winds up with one of the guard jobs.
Wow,
which sounds crazy. Yeah, but I mean, that's a good football player.
So who? Let's say for some reason they fall in love with Calvin Anderson, or Tom Compton comes in, gets right tackle. Where's Billy playing at guard? Is he left or is he right? Who's he taking?
That's a tough question. That's a really tough question. You know, because it's always a question of like, can Reisner get beat out? I don't think so. I don't think that he can get beat out by those other two, but I do think that it probably is Reisner if Billy Turner's coming in.
Yeah, I agree with that. Here's what I'll say, though. I'll say 1% chance that Billy Turner is your starting guard come week 1.
Yes.
Okay, so you got 20% chance to Calvin. How do you split the other 80? Because I have to imagine between Tom Compton and Billy Turner.
I think it's 70 for Billy Turner and 10% for Compton.
Oh, okay. So Calvin's got a better shot than Tom.
I think so.
Okay.
It's been a minute since Tom Compton has been like an actual starter. Mm-hmm. You know, it's really tough to say, I guess is the easy answer, especially when you don't get to see him out on the field. Because I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago that he last started. Last year he subbed in, like came off the bench and got a handful of starts.
Right.
His days of being a full-on starter seem to be well behind him. Yeah, he had 7 starts last year, played 17 games, 3 starts the year before, 5 and 14 before that. Before that, he started all 14 games that he was healthy for Minnesota. Okay. And that was at guard, too. And so that's the other piece is what position do they like him at? It's whatever. I think that he does have a chance, but I think his real role is probably to push Calvin Anderson for the backup job. I mean, you're starting to think about how these backup positions come together. So say it's the 5 we expect with Meinertz and Billy Turner on the right side of the line.
Yep.
You've got Mooty's absolutely making the roster.
Yep.
I think Calvin Anderson is 85-90% chance he's making the roster.
Yep.
Just because you're going to keep at least 8.
Yep.
And the 8th is Tom Compton, probably next up on the list. You like the versatility, that sort of thing. And then the question is, do you keep a 9th? You probably don't keep a 10th, and that's probably Glasgow, and maybe Wattenberg can beat him out.
So 9th, if Reisner, or no, if Glasgow makes it, he's the 9th.
I think so.
Man, they may want to do that. And then you cut Wattenberg, put him on the practice squad. And one of the things that the Broncos love about the 2 guys they brought in to compete with Calvin Anderson at right tackle is the versatility that you're talking about. Not only the ability to play right tackle, but both of those guys can and have played guard. If you really need to in a pinch, they can play left tackle, but I think Calvin Anderson is your swing left tackle. So I'm right there with you, except I'm going over a 50% shot for Calvin Anderson to be the Broncos starting right tackle. This is just, with Billy Turner, I mean, we gave Nathaniel Hackett the opportunity today to say, yep, Billy's going to be back next week. Tom's going to be back next week. And he declined. He just said these guys are aiming to be back for week 1, and that's the plan right now. It just seems like the closer we get to week 1, the less of a done, surefire deal it is for these guys to be back and on the field. Even with KJ Hamler. Now, I think KJ is way ahead of these guys, but I still think they're going to play it slow with him. So I think Calvin Anderson, I'll give him a 75% chance of being
Wow,
the Broncos
okay.
starting right tackle. So we're almost flipped there. Then it is Billy Turner, number 2, and then Tom Compton. Billy Turner has had the injury longer, which makes me think he should be back sooner than Tom Compton.
And then that goes 2 ways, though.
It really does. Or else you're just like, this guy's just going to have this injury forever. So that's where I'm at right now. But we agree on the guard spots, and that's the positional breakdown where the battles stand on the offensive line. Henry, let's get to some other position battles. But first, I got to tell you about us. I got to tell you about us and what we're doing over at thednvr.com. If you want all the details of what's going on in training camp, there's no better place than, one, listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube, which we're doing. Hit us with a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. And then if you want to read it, well, you go to thednvr.com. I do a practice rundown of everything you need to know, from what happened to injuries, who's trending up, who's trending down. I get that done before the pod even starts, so it's up there. And then Hank does a great job of diving deep into some good storylines, doing a bunch of different things, and he's got pieces for you at night, and you can read those. Those are evergreen.
Yep.
So it's just the best place for content. And also, if you want a 60-second rundown of what's going on from Broncos, make sure that you're tuning into our TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all of that. Hank and I are popping up left and right there. So go to thednvr.com. You can also get in on our final golf tournament coming up on September 2nd, I believe. So we'd really appreciate it. And when you sign up for an annual membership, you get a free shirt. So thednvr.com.
And also DraftKings Sportsbook. I mentioned I took that the over last night on the Hall of Fame game. I made a little parlay.
Oh.
So I took that over last night. I've got the Yankees tonight. Put them together, and it's like 4-1 odds, something like that.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so I don't know. I'm a big parlay guy. It's probably not the smartest way to bet.
I'm such a sucker for parlays.
It's so fun, though.
It is.
Yeah, it's just so much fun because now I get to go into this game tonight and just be like, okay, this is a big one for me.
Yeah.
And to me, like, yeah, there's something to like, oh, I'll throw $3 on whatever game. Now I can sit here and watch it and be like, it gets you tied in a little bit.
Yep.
When you can have like, okay, today, get your work done by 6:40 because you're going to have a big game tonight. Like, guys, that's fun just to be able to be at that point. Whatever you like to do, whether it's betting straight bets or parlays or overs or money lines or spreads or props, there's so many options at DraftKings Sportsbook. So make sure you sign up, especially ahead of football season. Right now, if you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, you can get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. So you make your first bet. It can be $10. It can be $700. If it hits, you get whatever you get. If you miss, you get whatever you bet back in the form of a free bet. Makes it an awesome way to get started. You know, you can make a mistake.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't, but you can make a mistake. Use the code DNVR to get this offer, though. Again, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. Risk-free bet paid out in the form of non-withdrawable free bet token. Max $1,000. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
You want the good news or the bad news, Henry?
Bad news.
Bad news first. This does not apply to us. The good news is it's a Breck Brew Friday for most of the country, most of Broncos country, and most of the world. Not for us because Broncos have one more practice. I guess we could still celebrate.
Why not?
Just be responsible.
Yeah.
And don't go 3 days in a row, Henry. That's the advice Nathaniel Hackett's going to give you when it comes to drinking Breckenridge beer, and it's a Breck Brew Friday. Make sure to get in on some delicious Breck Brews. It is a scorcher out today. It's perfect Palisade Peach. It is perfect strawberry sky weather. Get yourself a light beer, or if you're crazy and you want a dark beer, they have that as well. You can get the vanilla porter, but check everything out over at breckbrew.com where you can find their beer locator, which is an awesome way. If you live in Denver and you want to know the closest place to get Breck Brew, go there. If you live in Wisconsin and you want to know the closest place, go to the Breck Brew locator and they will let you know. I guarantee you there's Breck beer pretty darn close to you. So check them out, the official beer of DNVR. All right, Henry, let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. Running back. Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams? Who is the starter right now?
It's Javonte.
Okay.
It's Javonte.
Okay.
I do
It sounds
think
like you're convincing yourself of that.
it's not what I thought a week ago. I'll say a week ago, it would have been, Javonte by a mile. Javonte is going to be out there starting every game. I still am pretty confident that he's the starter, But for a minute there, I was thinking this is like a 60-40 thing.
Yeah.
I thought that there was a bit of a separation. Now it is starting to feel like it is a, 1A, 1B.
Yep.
Both these guys getting plenty of run. Still confident, though. Still very confident, honestly, that Javonte is that number one guy.
I'm right there with you.
Yep.
I'm right there with you in every way. A week ago, Javonte was the starter every single practice.
He was.
Pretty much every single period, he was the one coming up first, then Melvin would come in. But it's changed. This week, Melvin has earned the respect to get that starting nod. Half the time this week, 2 out of the 5 days, 3 out of the 5 days. I'm not exactly sure because of these jog-throughs that they've got going on. So he's making it a competition. And then you're right, Henry. This is not going to be a 70-30 split. This is going to be 54-46. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if week 1, Javonte gets 2 more carries than Melvin. Week 2, Melvin gets 3 more carries than Javonte. And this is just going to be a back and forth thing. But I do think that this coaching staff is just going to say, Javonte, we're going to give you the start this year. What if they just flip it and do every other game? I wouldn't be shocked at that either. But I'm going to say for week 1 that it still is Javonte. And honestly, Henry, who the starter is more symbolic than really anything else, just because of how we're seeing this thing play out with it being a 50-55% split.
I agree. I totally agree. I will say I still think that the tides will kind of turn. Even that
Toward
feels
Melvin?
like too strong of a feeling. No, I do think toward Javonte.
Okay.
Where toward the end of the season, in the playoffs, this is more of a Javonte-led rushing attack. Now, and that might be the difference between 55-45 and 65-35. It's like the widest.
Yeah, that'd still be a big shift.
It would be a big shift, though. And I guess a lot of that's going to be dictated by how they play this season. So maybe this is more me thinking that Javonte is going to take this step that we all think that he's probably going to take in terms of just being a Pro Bowl sort of running back. But going into the season, the fact that it just makes sense to save your best running back's legs for the end of the season, combined with all the other factors, this is going to be pretty close to 50-50, I think.
I completely agree. Okay, tight end, it's not going to be 50-50 because there's not 2 tight ends. There's like 4, 5 tight ends here. Where do things stand? We haven't mentioned Salbert's name in a big way in a couple of days. It doesn't mean that, he's still, I think on the last competitive practice yesterday, he still had 1 or 2 catches. He's still doing things. But a week ago, all we would talk about at tight end was Salbert. Where do things stand?
It's so tough to tell. This is probably the toughest to tell of any of them. We've talked about Montrell just being solid. Then he has that really big day, and you're just like, okay, that validates everything else that has happened. With Sauerbert, it's, okay, he did this much. He's had good day. He never really had, I didn't think, just that breakthrough dominant performance. And that makes me think that when he has, 2 catches, 3 catches in the last 3 days, whatever it is,
He's coming back to earth.
He might have needed a little bit more than that. Still think he's been the best tight end in camp, but it is being anchored by what happened early on. Alberto has a couple of catches, and his catches are flashier, so I don't know. If I had to take a stab at it right now, do they just keep 5 tight ends?
Potentially.
It's so hard to make a case to cut any of these guys.
And then maybe what you do is when you sign a player in week 4, you decide who you're not using at tight end, and that 5th tight end's the guy you end up cutting. So you just delayed the decision a little bit. But in terms of the starter, week 1, man, Greg Dulcich, I think he's just a little bit too far behind the 8 ball right now. Just a little bit. But they want him to be that guy. I'll say Alberto. We've seen him be the starter. We've seen him make some plays, but Henry, this is probably the position battle I'm least comfortable with because it's it's that wide open.
How do you feel about just like the level of play? Like your confidence in the tight end position going into this season?
Not very good.
Yeah.
Honestly, because there can be some flashes, certainly, from Alberto. I love him as a receiver. I think Greg Dulcich is going to find a role as a receiver. But they don't have that complete tight end. And this is probably, when you look at it, one of the weakest positions on the Broncos team when you compare it to all the other teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's one day by day, my opinion changes just on the tight end position, where you could talk yourself into, okay, think of all the fun things you can do, where guess what? You're throwing Albert O out there and you're throwing Tomlinson out there.
Right.
Does that mean you're running the ball? Maybe. Does that mean that you're leaving Tomlinson in the block and Albert O's split out wide, but they're going to choose how they defend that? It's one of those things where you say, Tim Patrick isn't here. Make Albert O just a receiver. That's only partially the offense's decision. A lot of that's on the defense where they say, we're throwing a cornerback on. We're throwing a linebacker on. And you kind of have to treat that how they treat it, if that makes sense. So I don't know. That whole concept is what makes it so hard to say who's going to be the starter week one, because you don't know the big picture game plan where it's like, okay, here's what we think our strength is. We want 60% of the time Albert O out there, or 30% of the time we want him out there, 20% of the time we want Tomlinson out there, and all these percentages might add up to 80% of the time you have a tight end out there. They might add up to 170%, and you're averaging like that many tight ends. And then on any given play, like the first play of the game, what are they going to do? Who's your starter? I mean,
I know.
I'll just say, give me Dulcich out there in some form.
Okay.
Dulcich is out there for the first snap of the season.
Gosh, I like that. He's the one that they so desperate. I mean,
just
even when
throw him out
Nathaniel
there.
Hackett, Dulcich scored a touchdown yesterday. Nathaniel Hackett was asked about it. He just lights up. I mean, the first thing he says is, he was asked, like, what have you noticed about Greg Dulcich? And the first thing he says is, besides the hair? I mean, he just gets so excited talking about Greg Dulcich. And you know who makes the decision on that? It's Nathaniel Hackett. So there we go. Okay, let's do one more on the offense, then quickly hit the defense. Third wide receiver. And obviously this has changed from fourth, fifth depth wide receiver to who's the third wide receiver right now? Not just right now, but right now with what we know projecting for week one.
It's KJ Hamler.
I was confident.
Yep, it is.
And I also agree with that.
If everybody's healthy, you've got Sutton, you've got Judy, you've got Hamler, and then that's where the conversation starts.
Yep.
Now, is everybody going to be healthy? We're going to touch wood.
Massive question mark.
If I had to put a number on it, I would set the line. I would say you've got 6 games. 6.5. I'd set the line at 5.5 games. You have all 3 of those guys.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a pretty good line.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty daunting line, just how low it is.
And then you have those decisions. And that's where I don't even know that it's that matchup based. It's just who you want to give those opportunities to. I think right now, Montrell Washington is the guy you give. He's your number 4. Yep. And he's filling in wherever he fills in. But that could change very quickly. I mean, that could be one of those things where if he doesn't back up the camp with the strong preseason, then he could be out of that spot before the season even starts.
Yeah.
But I do think that as of right now, he is in the driver's seat for number 4 receiver.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Then I think Kendall Hinton falls in at number 5. But I certainly think that there's no doubt it's KJ Hamler at number 3. And it was actually going to be an interesting conversation if there's 4 receivers on the field at one point this season with Tim Patrick, or if there's 3 receivers, who's on the field. And that's probably very situational. Yeah. But now it's not really. If KJ Hamler's healthy, it's going to be those 3. Okay, let's do something different when we flip over to the defensive side.
Okay.
Can you throw a 1-minute timer on for us? And we're going to have 1 minute to talk about every position battle. And when he's pulling that timer up, let's talk about just what positions are there that are open.
So
what position battles are there?
Outside linebacker is a mess.
Yep.
Yep. Inside linebacker.
Doesn't sound like we're going to get it done in 60 seconds.
Inside linebacker, we calling that battle?
Yes.
That's a 15-second timer, though.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, yep.
Is there anything on the defensive line? Now, the defensive line is just so fluid. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do defensive line.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
There's no starting positions open at safety or corner.
There are not.
Okay. And we talked about corner already when we talked about Damari Mathis. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's do those 3. You hear? Defensive line, Henry.
Okay.
Go.
So defensive line, you got DJ Jones, you got Draymond Jones. That's your
Starters
big
done,
two.
boom.
Big two.
Yep.
How you use them? There's the question mark. Draymond's a pass rusher. You're using him on third downs. DJ Jones, you're making your pick. If you're saving him for third downs, I think Mike Purcell's out there on first down.
Okay. I agree too. I think that's the starting line. Mike Purcell, DJ Jones, boy, two big boys next to each other. And Draymond Jones, if you want to go with not as big, it's Draymond Jones, DJ Jones in the center, and then who's on the right side?
I think Deshaun Williams.
I think it is Deshaun
He's your
Williams.
answer to any question right now.
Yep. I completely agree. And I think he's enough where he can do it all that the Broncos will feel comfortable with him. I think he's going to get worked in throughout the season, but I think if you want to go big, it's Purcell. If you want to go small, it's Deshaun Williams. And look at that. We got a John Elway, 7 seconds left on the clock.
Easy.
We did it. Easy. Okay. Oh, wow.
Ooh,
I thought we avoided
that.
that.
Right? We don't deserve that.
Beating it. Here's like, no, you guys are getting punished with this.
I don't get to use the sound effects anymore.
That's full
I
volume.
love it. Okay, this one I don't think we're going to be able to get through in a minute. But when the timer goes off, we got to say who the two starting outside linebackers are week one. Henry, go.
Oh, boy.
We don't have time to waste.
Randy Gregory's out there. You got Bradley Chubb. Those that obviously where the conversation starts. From there, I think next up after that, it's a tough competition between Malik Reed and Baron Browning. I think that we're maybe discounting Nick Bonito on early downs.
Okay.
I think that might be where he kind of falls in line.
Early downs.
I'll throw it back to you there.
Okay, I like Baron Browning to be the guy outside or opposite of Bradley Chubb here, and that is including Randy Gregory in this conversation. Like we said earlier, just the closer we get to week one, the more uncertainty these injuries seem to come from the Broncos. So I'm not counting on Randy Gregory. I think it's going to be Bradley Chubb on the outside and Baron Browning, who has had a terrific second week of training camp here, and the bend is what we hear from Nathaniel Hackett. I've also heard it behind the scenes. They love the bend of Baron Browning. And when I think of bend, I think of Von Miller. I'm not saying Baron Browning's Von Miller, but that's the specialness that they're seeing from him.
Give me, there it is. Give me Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory to start.
Okay.
I'm with you. Like
optimistic.
You get scared at this point, but it's going to take another couple weeks before I say he's not ready.
Yeah. Okay. I agree there. Do we need 15 seconds for this next one, you said?
Let's give it 25.
25 seconds on the clock, you hear? As he's dialing that up at inside linebacker.
Jonas Griffith. It's Josie Jewell. Jonas Griffith is your number 2. He might be your number 1 by the end of the year.
Man, I love that. And that's what the Broncos hope from Jonas Griffith. However, did see some Alex Singleton getting some play there today. So maybe they're trying to keep us on our toes. But no, in the end, you look at Jonas Griffith. He looks like Randy Gregory's size. He flies around, and he's also making the right plays in the run and the pass game. He just needs to get his hands a little better on that interception yesterday.
Oh, poor guy.
And if you want to read the story about that, check out Hank's piece yesterday at ddnvr.com.
He would have sent the ball to his mom.
Oh, man, that's even more heartbreaking.
I know.
Oh, no. Okay, I think we hit all the position battles where they stand now. Of course, we still have one more week of camp left. I believe 5 more practices.
Punter.
I
had forgotten about punter.
You know what? Let's pull up that timer one more time here. Let's go. Punter.
Every passing day, Sam Martin seems less likely in my mind. And that's more of like a reflection of where I started, which is Sam Martin will be the punter. Corliss Waitman, though. And I have issues with that name. Sometimes it's like Warless, Cateman, Corliss, Waitman, Corliss. But there's so many factors. He's got probably the bigger leg. I think I'm willing to say that.
Booming him.
Yep. There's some misses in there as well that are concerning. Sam Martin, in terms of placing the ball, I think is better. But you do at least have that strength to bank on, and you save a couple $1,000,000 if you make the change. I still think it's Sam Martin, but I'm getting closer to 50-50.
Yeah, give me the young guy. Because of not really anything that's happening on the football field. I've seen enough from Corliss where I feel comfortable with him. And you get to save, $2.2 million against the cap if you move on from Sam Martin.
You have to throw in that you keep Corliss Waitman.
For $800,000 or something.
Yeah.
So you're saving $1.5 million.
Yeah, and probably even a little bit more.
I think that's the way they go.
But next week, I'm probably agreeing with you, if I'm being honest.
There we go. Okay, I love it. We even got punter talk in the second segment. And before we talk to the people, got to tell you about our great friends over at Green Mountain Dental, where they will give you a free Sonicare toothbrush by scheduling a cleaning, x-ray, and exam. Henry, everyone's going to go to the dentist twice a year, so you might as well go somewhere that not only is going to give you a free Sonicare toothbrush, but go somewhere that's going to treat you like family. They're part of our DNVR family. They're great people, and when you go there, they're going to be able to talk Colorado sports with you. They're going to be able to talk about DNVR. There's going to be a comfortable family environment, so check them out over at Green Mountain Dental. All right, let's hop into the comment section and the website, but first, do we have any super chats you hear? We got one. All right. What's it say? Who's it from?
$1.99 from Zachary Freeman.
Let's go.
Love it, Zach.
When do the Denver Broncos and the Dallas Cowboys practice together?
Very good question. So
That's an easy one.
Yes, it is an easy one. Henry, I'll let you answer.
Thursday.
Typically, these practices, they do two of them. This year, they're just doing one practice with the Cowboys.
Yep.
It's in Denver. I believe there's no tickets that you have to get in order to go there. So just show up. It's the last training camp practice as well. Then the Broncos have Friday off, and then they have their first preseason game against Dallas here.
Real quick, what battle are you most excited for?
Oh,
Just
man. CD and Pat Surtain.
That's a good one. I'm thinking it's Micah Parsons and the tackles. I want to see Bowles, but I also want to see Calvin Anderson.
I don't want to see that one because
You
I
gotta
think
know.
it's gonna be bad.
You just gotta know how far off he is.
Yeah, man, there's gonna be some good one. We're gonna have a fun
know.
time. So on
Yeah.
Wednesday, I believe the Broncos do heavy-ish practice on Monday, then a really heavy practice on Tuesday,
Yep.
then a big, not a day off, but a jog through on Wednesday. So Wednesday, we're going to be previewing the Cowboys.
Yep.
That's going to be a fun one, looking at those battles.
know.
Because there are some good ones. Man, I want to talk about it
I know,
now,
I know.
but we can't because we've got over 10 questions from listeners over at thednvr.com, and let's hop in right away. First one coming in from our friend Big Hank Stan. He
Let's go.
says, it's Picking Nits Friday, and here's my preen from yesterday's pod. How was Darius's last name an old spelling, as you deemed it was, when it's literally the way you spelled the word shepherd? You know, the one who tends to a flock? It's the least odd way to spell that name. I'm confused. I guess it's not the most common way now.
Yeah, which I totally agree. But now I'm not sure, and I'm trying to figure out how to Google that.
Yeah, I don't know how you would Google that either. It's better in question form
Yeah.
spoken. But I give you credit, Big Hang Stan. Almost called you by another name there. But I think it's a very good point. It shouldn't
It
be
is.
the old, or it should be the old way of spelling it. Just maybe not the most popular now.
Yes.
He goes on and says, on that note, if you could roam the earth and tend to a plethora of animals carrying perhaps a lute and book of poetry, on what lands would you want to meander?
Oh, I thought it was gonna be what animal.
Oh,
wow.
what lands you want to meander? And no, you don't have a phone, RK. Love Hank Stan.
Okay, I'm gonna start here. It's not gonna be Colorado. Too hot. It is too hot right now, and I'm upset. San
Boy,
Diego.
You're going to be really... It's too hot in Colorado.
It's cooler there. It's
but
coastal.
you're going to San
Yes.
Diego?
Yes.
Oh,
and you get
okay.
the winter as well. That's nice. Well,
okay.
I'm roaming San Diego with my flock. No.
I like that.
No.
I'm going somewhere with the beach as well.
Ooh.
I'm going somewhere tropical as well. So what would that be? Yeah,
Hawaii.
You seem. Yeah, it could be Hawaii.
It's kind of
That's an
simple, but
easy
yeah.
one.
In the U.S.?
Maybe anywhere.
Oh, I'd go not Cancun, but Isla Mujer.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
There we go. That's it. That is it. Hank Stan also goes on and says, also, why the crap did the trash pirates give Jacobs 5 totes in a meaningless game? Was he being punished? Laughable. I mean, so that's the only thing I knew about this game, was that Josh Jacobs was playing while everyone else was not playing. That does feel like a punishment.
That was my first thought too, but then I looked at what happened, and it's like, well, he must have been having the time of his life out there. Like that looks incredible.
Yeah.
Like imagine if you could just take Josh Jacobs' body for, one night. What would you want to do? Play football against some like all right but not good football player. Just like bang. That must be the most fun he's had playing football in a long time.
One night you get Josh Jacobs' body and you're playing football on a high school stadium in Canton, Ohio against a bunch of third stringers.
I'm taking on the Jaguars' third string team.
Wow.
That's the dream.
Wow, that is Hank's dream right there. Interesting.
5 catches for 30 yards, or 5 carries, but also the 2 catches. Those little screens.
7 touches in a quarter, or was he playing?
He didn't play past the first.
Okay. All in one quarter. Wow.
Yeah.
Good for Josh.
Yeah.
Running him to the ground in preseason. Howie Boot My Booner coming in and says, "Hi, fellas. I'm a descendant from a long, strong line of booners. I was the first booner to go to a university where a friend borrowed my sloppy jalopy car, which got stolen overnight while we were partying." Okay, I have no idea if this is a comedy skit here or if this is real. He says, "Did not notice until the next day when trying to go on a McDonald's run. Reported it to police, who said, 'You'll probably never see it again.' But as fate would have it, me being a poor broke student, we found it a mile down the road. It had run out of gas. The thieves just left it on the side of the road undamaged anyhow. Howie Boot My Boomer out." Yes, and actually, since my car was stolen twice, we had talked to the police many times about this. And yeah, they said typically they'll just drive it and do whatever in it until the gas runs out.
That's a weird line to draw.
Yeah, they're just, to steal like thousands of dollar item to then just use $40 of gas.
True.
It makes sense. If you're stealing a car, it's because you don't have money.
I guess.
But if you don't have money for gas.
But like, you don't have $40, so you don't have to go steal another car.
That's exactly.
Like, you could. I mean, that'll get you through. Even if you're driving it a lot, that'll get you at least a few days before you have to steal another car.
Exactly.
I guess there's cameras at gas stations. Maybe that's a holdup.
Potentially, yeah. I think
don't
those
know.
cameras are like tapping it. The police are tapping into them and looking for stolen cars,
No,
though.
I don't.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't.
Next one coming in. That was a fun one. Next one coming in from Nash Bronco says, "My dudes, TGIF. Let me be clear about my Titans comment. I was born and raised as a Broncos fan and will be a diehard as long as I live. I was really just looking for a good local source of info on how the team is shaping up. The main point of my comment was to hype up DNVR, not reveal my secret love for another team. The truth is I don't really watch other sports besides professional fishing, so having another team to root for is fun. However, when my Broncos come to town, I want them to demolish the Titans. Go Broncos, go DNVR, go Hank, go RK, go Zach, go Kale, and today, go here." So Nash Bronco, I was actually thinking about your comment this morning and the way I reacted to it. I think actually it's awesome to adopt a team where you move to, unless it's like within your division, and then obviously then it's probably just extra fun, to play it up. So I actually think it's really cool that you're adopting the Titans, as long as you keep the diehard with that first team. And when those two teams play, it's like, no.
Yep.
I want my diehard team to win.
Also, do you think, like, there's got to be a podcast on professional fishing, but what is the analysis like? It's like, oh, he's changing out the bait.
I can't. I have no idea.
I don't even know.
I'm not a fisher. I know a lot of people are fishers, so I can't even think like the joys of fishing, let alone the joys of listeing to a podcast about fishing.
I know.
It's all about the rod. I've heard that before. Broncos Only comes in and says, "Yesterday the topic came up about Draymond Jones being reluctant to talk to the media. Last year during week 3, I saw him interviewed by Channel 9 by some local hack. The interviewer warmed him up with a bunch of compliments and then suddenly clobbered him with, 'Vic Fangio says you're doing great, but you need to improve some areas of your game. What do you think these areas are?' Draymond looked like a deer caught in car headlights and stammered, 'Don't know.' It was clear he was hearing it first in this interview. Yikes, unnamed interviewer, and yikes, Vic." I actually don't think yikes to the unnamed interviewer. I think, in fact, if you're going to ask a tough question like that, and honestly, I think that's more yikes on Vic and yikes on people not informing Draymond about what was going to come in that interview. But if I'm going to ask a heavy hitter, I probably want to warm him up a little bit with some easy questions, some compliments, and then throw that in. But then on the other hand, Henry, if it's just all the easy, fun questions, especially when things aren't going right, and this was week 3, so I guess things were going right, it just doesn't seem right. You know, when the Broncos are losing and losing and losing, and if all we were to do was talk about the good and the good, you guys probably would tune out and wouldn't want to listen. So I do appreciate some tougher questions, but for him to be completely caught off guard is pretty wild.
I'll throw in there, you know, if you're the phrasing of the question, like Vic says you need to do things better.
Right.
What things do you think Vic thinks you need to do better? Like, that's a better question for Vic Fangio and phrase like that. You know? You could still ask him, what do you think you need to do better? Or what do you think of Vic saying you need to be better? But I will say there's a little bit of a little disconnect in terms of like here's what's up. Then the question.
Fair. Yeah. That's totally fair. Our Vada Luke says, fellas, to clarify my vibes comment, read Montreal, Washington, Antonio. We have a lot of clarifying on this pod.
A lot of clarification.
He says, I was only referring to the athletic side of things between Montreal, Washington, and Antonio Brown. A good reminder to all the importance of taking care of our mental health. Completely agree.
Yes.
Related to my ownership comments, could you imagine if the Kanye AB group had managed to buy the Broncos? I feel like the vibes would be very different. I agree. Speaking of alternate timelines, I imagine a future in which Rob Walton gets the bug for Colorado Dubs and cuts Mont for a check for the Rockies. I then imagine the Broncos playing a couple seasons in Coors Field while Mile High gets updated or whatever and brought into the future. Maybe a louder trade deadline for the Rockies. Cheers, Arvada Luke. Wouldn't that be something?
Yep. If anybody wanted to buy the Broncos or the Rockies, it'd be incredible.
Yep.
I actually just last night was looking at Rockies season ticket prices because I had the thought, because I was so frustrated. You know, if the Rockies were any better, I would consider buying season tickets. And I was like, yeah, you can get decent tickets for pretty cheap, especially when you consider you like sell at least half of them anyway.
Yep.
But yeah, there's no way I'm doing anything like that because
were they reasonably priced?
They were. Oh. They were really reasonably priced, especially when you consider there's so many.
Right. Yeah.
So you're really selling them all anyway.
You also consider how bad they are, so it kind of takes away from the price.
That is true.
It does. And then you also consider come August and no one wants to buy your tickets from you.
But maybe that's different.
It could be. Yeah. So it's an investment. It's a little gamble.
Yep.
And Hank, we know you're a little gambler.
I am a big gambler. I will say the Avs season tickets paid off nicely this year.
Oh, yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
That was a great call. Rockies next year? Is that what you're saying?
Nope,
Rockies
absolutely
World
not.
Series? Okay,
Don't ever anybody spin that into that. No.
Mile High Buckeye says, my guys, happy Friday, gents.
Yes.
I have been commenting lately, I haven't been commenting lately, but I've been listening to the pod every day. RK mentioning Dirty Mike and the boys from the other guys yesterday legit made me probably laugh out loud at my desk. Probably one of the most underrated comedies in my opinion.
Great movie.
Never heard of it.
If you watch a movie, make it the other guy. It's Will Ferrell, but like at his very best.
Okay.
And Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
They're hilarious.
Yeah.
Just a nice buddy cop movie. Best it's been made in a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that on the list. He says, this week has been a big one. My wife and I just closed on our first house, and I just found out that I'm going to be a dad. Wow. Congratulations to both of those. Our house is close to I-70 in Ohio, and Google Maps says all I need to do is drive straight for 18 hours to reach the DNVR bar. LOL. I would really like to make a Denver trip this year and visit the bar again this fall because it sounds like it may be my last chance for a few years. That's for sure.
Yes.
Question for you guys. Who has been your biggest dark horse at training camp so far? Surprise breakout.
That's a tough one. So, I mean, because there's two factors, right? There's like the who has had the best camp and also who did you expect? So, like Pat Surtain, no. We had high standards.
Right.
He's exceeded them, but no. So, for me, it's between Montreal, Washington and Eric Saubert. And I think Montreal, he's up above Eric Saubert, but he also maybe started lower. It's tough comparing a rookie with a 28-year-old tight end.
It is true that, and I mean, it probably boils down to those two guys. I'm going to go Montreal because my expectations for him were seriously just be a returner.
Yep.
He has not done one thing in camp as a returner that's made me say, yeah, this guy's the truth. He's done a lot of things as a receiver that have made me say that. So great question. He goes on and says, keep doing what you guys are doing, fellas. Discovering the pod last year changed my days at work and added hype to football season. Much love as always, and long live DNVR. Cheers. Mile High Buckeye, thank you so much. That means a lot. And Henry, we have, since I've been doing this pod, which has been a while, never covered a winning team. I can't wait for how fun this pod is going to be when we're covering a winning team.
I know. It's going to be so fun.
Big Tony says, my boys, yesterday you guessed the letters T, N, and I. Choose one letter today. RK was close with one of his guesses yesterday. So it looks like we got an N, and that was it. So it's blank, ORN blank O blank E, second word, blank OAR blank S. We're close, man.
I think I might know what it is.
You know what it is? Let's take a guess. Take a guess.
I think it's cornhole boards.
Ah, oh. This makes me think this is what
The gift
he's
might be.
sending. Oh, man. Big Tony. I think
Oh.
you nailed it. So then if we're guessing, well, he guessed it. So
I think so.
I guess we'll go with the C if it's not actually cornhole
Yeah.
boards. Okay, love it. Great job there.
Oh,
Hank.
thanks. I'm
He
playing
says-
a lot of Wordle.
It's paying off.
Yeah.
He says, my question for today is, Zach, RK, and Mace have previously told us what their journeys were that led them to the positions they're in with DNVR today. I'm curious what Henry's journey was. That's all for today. Big Tony out.
Can hit the Cliffs notes.
Yep.
I'm from Montana,
Okay.
up in the northwest corner. Went to Missoula, Montana for school, University of Montana.
Okay.
Economics major. Then it's like a super short program there. So
Okay.
it's like you could add a couple minors, you could add a major. Tried political science, hated it. And then got a journalism major, and it was a lot of fun. Did a bunch of writing and stuff. During my junior year, no, it would have been during my sophomore year, I started writing for DNVR. Just like the little things.
Yep.
Like, I think the first story was like Billy Wing got promoted from the practice squad or
Big-
something
big
like
hitter.
that. Yeah. After my sophomore year of college, I came down here for a few weeks. I was coaching a lacrosse team. So I was like, there was a tournament in like Utah. So I just drove over here. It was a lot of driving. And then before my senior year, I interned like a real internship.
Yeah. For a
and-
summer.
Yes. Then when I graduated in 2019, I started covering the Buffs for 3 years.
Yep. And now you're here.
And now I'm here. Yes, there we go.
Great opportunity to say all the small things instead of all the little things.
I am so sick of that song.
I don't think I could ever get sick of it.
I'm so sick of that song.
Drew Peacock, thanks for sharing your story. Hank.
Yes.
Drew Peacock says, hey, fellas, what do you think the Broncos package for 3rd and long is going to look like this season? Do you think training camp has changed your prediction? And does it differ from what your ideal package would be?
It's going to look fun. I'll definitely say that. I do think that they're not holding back. You know, if they were trying to rush the passer, they're not afraid to let anybody know it. They'll throw their pass rushers out there because they got a bunch of them. In terms of who the people are, I think that's still a competition. And part of it's going to be who's fresh, which means like who is out there for 1st and 2nd down. I think there's some rotation based off of that, and obviously thinking about who you want out there for 3rd down. But it's going to be Bradley Chubb. It's going to be Randy Gregory. And the rest of those guys, you know, I think Draymond's probably out there just because you want somebody on the inside, but Benito, Cooper, Reed, Browning, all those guys are just kind of competing for those jobs.
I love this because I took this as who's out there for the offense on 3rd and long. You took it as who's out there for the defense on 3rd and long. Went back and reread it because I'm like, what is he talking about? And yeah, you could have taken it either way you wanted. So I like that. I think I'll take it for the
Go
offensive
ahead.
side. You answer for the defense. I'll say for offense, it's obviously going to be Jerry Jeudy. It's going to be Cortland Sutton.
Yep.
It's going to be KJ Hamler if healthy. I don't think they go 5 wide. I think what they do is have a running back in a lot. We haven't seen a lot of 5 wide, completely empty sets. I think they're going to have either Javonte or Melvin back there. And then it's going to be either Dulcich or Alberto, depending on what point of the season it is. It's going to be Dulcich later in the season, Alberto probably earlier in the season. So there we go. I like that we took that different directions. And final comment coming in from Talking Schmidt says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Another day closer to the beautiful NFL season. I have my fantasy football draft coming up soon and had a curious question for you for my PPR league. What would you draft? Or would you draft Sutton or Jeudy first? I heard the stat prediction on the pod yesterday, and it made me think of fantasy football. Also, are you guys going to preview the Cowboys training camp practice? Planning to go with it with a buddy and wanted to show him the podcast to exactly what to expect. Let's ride with about 1,700 exclamation marks. We love it, Talking Schmidt. Yes, we are doing the training camp preview with that. We'll be doing that pod next Wednesday at 3 p.m. live on YouTube. Hit us with a thumbs up if you're tuning in. Really appreciate it. And then Henry, his question, Jeudy or Sutton first in PPR?
That's a big question. You know, I think I think Sutton probably finishes with more yards and probably more touchdowns.
Okay.
I think Jeudy probably has more catches, so PPR, that
gonna help.
alone might balance it out.
Right.
But I think either way, I still take Judy just because of the upside.
Yep, me too. And that's exactly,
Okay.
I think I would have said the exact same thing. Maybe, yeah, Courtland's probably going to have more touchdown. I don't know, a little conflicted
Yeah.
on that, but I like Judy just because of the catches. I think he ends up with more, and I think that ends up helping you out. And I think that'll do it for today. Yeah, here, thank you so much for producing. Henry, you're killing the grind. Thank you so much for being on with me. We'll be back tomorrow with you on a special Saturday episode because the Broncos are practicing. That means we're doing a pod. I won't be there, so they will be doing a pod. Tomorrow's my old day. Ryan got his old day today. But thank you guys all so much for rolling with us. We really appreciate it. Have a fabulous Friday and enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you tomorrow.